Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of the best podcast to ever grace the internet in existence, Skill Issue. I'm your host. I'm Seth, Dumpy Does, and I'm here with a very special man.
Hello. My name is Mike. I was referenced in the titular ranking every game I've beaten as that one Halo fan that hates Halo 5.
A true classic, honestly.
Yeah,
Kind of cemented
my
me
favorite
as a
game.
YouTube legend, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think historians are going to look back in 10 years and be like, wow, this is really what started it all.
You know, you're crazy until you're right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously, like, bravo on that video. The video is very well done.
Thank you. This is a new podcast series that me and Mike are starting. We're going to pick a specific game or a franchise. For instance, this episode is Portal. We'll be covering Portal 1, 2, the comic that connects them. Mike knows a lot about games.
I do. I do like yapping about games. I've been playing games since I was like 10 or 11, and I like talking about them. And
What was the first game you ever played?
the first game I ever played was Spyro the Dragon on the PlayStation 1.
It was?
Yeah, it was. Actually remember I got my tonsils removed when I was like 10 years old. Because I kept getting strep throat like every other month. And I was in the hospital, like out of surgery, and my dad walked in and handed me a PlayStation.
That's crazy.
It was kind of crazy. It's like a core memory. It's one of my earliest, like, childhood, not earliest, that's a lie. It's like one of my, like, most clear childhood memories.
That's actually really
is me, like,
sweet.
sitting in the... Yeah. And, as soon as I got home, I set that bitch up to my CRT TV. Shout out to anyone who remembers those fucking things. And
No
played
clue.
some Spyro the Dragon.
Did your dad play games? Like, was he into it at all? Because I know your dad. And
He
doesn't
did.
seem like
He
the
was a
gamer
gamer.
type.
He
Really?
Yeah, he had an Xbox, an original Xbox.
Halo guy?
Yeah, I played Halo with him. That was my first time
Yeah.
ever playing. He's the reason I'm a Halo fan.
Let's go.
I have memories of playing co-op with him, and I played Gears of War with him. I watched him play BioShock actually.
That's
when
cool.
that first came out.
Do you know if he beat it?
No, he never beat it, but I beat it, and I
carried the
rubbed it in his
family
face.
legacy to pick up the torch.
I remember racing against him in Forza. Yeah, my dad played a lot of video games.
Yo, shout out good dads for real. My first game was just Minecraft, but I remember my stepdad would put like music on the 360 because you could upload files and just listen to music while gaming, and I was bumping like "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" while like chopping down a tree in Minecraft. It was pretty cool stuff.
That's actually pretty epic.
But
it's a way cooler story than mine.
No, yours is awesome. This is about Portal. I'm ready to get into the meat and potatoes here.
Yeah. Enough talking about me and my stupid childhood.
I spit on you.
Yeah.
You know, gaming was actually invented in like the 1200s, back when people were like shitting in outhouses. They'd actually set up Tetris and stuff to game. It's pretty old.
Yeah, you know about stick wheel?
Stick wheel was goated, bro.
Dude.
You remember?
I was pretty nasty at stick wheel.
You remember when they turned cornhole digital for the first time too? Like you could finally like actually use your corn for cooking.
Yeah, bro. That's actually the reason my grandfather's dead. He just couldn't handle that kind of innovation.
Yeah, it comes at you quick.
Sorry, cut that out. I don't know if that's too far.
I'm leaving it in. Portal is a game franchise created by once legends Valve. As a Valve fanboy, I can acknowledge that nowadays they are not as good as they used to be. But in the glory days of Valve, with the shipment of the orange box to get Half-Life and Team Fortress 2 on consoles, they put this game called Portal on there, which was originally an idea by, I believe, some college students who were just messing with the idea of using portals in games. And like Valve always does, they find a good idea and throw money at the people, tell them to join them. And we got Portal, a puzzle game where you use portals.
Yeah. Seth, what was you're a big Valve fan. Um,
Yeah.
you have that great video, another great video. Shameless plug. Watch the Dumpy Does. I 100% at every Valve Half-Life and Portal game.
It's on
Is
this
that the title?
channel. I fully
Um,
completed every Half-Life and Portal
there
game.
you go. I'm a
Yeah,
fake
fake
fan.
fan. Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, yeah. Watch the video though. But this man's a big Valve fan. So what was your first experience playing Portal?
I'd played it right after finishing all the Half-Life stuff. The first thing I obviously realized was it's not an FPS game. It's kind of styled like one. You have the portal gun, first person. It's in Valve's iconic Source engine. But when I started Portal 1, I remember feeling like it was very eerie because everything is super blank. It's test chambers. It's like, I feel like one of the first games to have that uncanny liminal space kind of feeling. That was my first impressions, that it felt like an FPS game that you just couldn't shoot. It was really eerie. It's short. I thought it was
Yeah.
really short too.
Did you like it when you first played it?
I thought it was pretty solid, yeah. I do have different opinions on it now, though. Now that I've had more time to sit with it, and after playing Portal 2, obviously, it's shaped a little bit. But that was my first impressions. What were yours?
Yeah, so I first played both Portal games pretty much right next to each other. I got them in 2013, when Valve still used to do weekends where you could just get all of their games for free. Um,
That's kind of cool.
I got both Portal games, and I played them basically back to back. And I know we're gonna start talking about Portal 1, obviously, but Portal 1, I played it once, never looked back. I
Yeah.
actually, I know you know this already, but I just played it for the second time for this video 2 hours ago. So, um, you
And
know,
I think that's an interesting thing. I think that Portal, when it first came out, the first Portal game was so loved because that was all new. GLaDOS was new. The idea of portals was new.
mhm,
I feel like Portal 1 is almost like a foundation or like a quote unquote beta for what Portal 2 would be. So I think nowadays
mhm,
Portal 1 ends up being this short, kind of dumbed down Portal experience, in my opinion. It still has a lot of charm. It still has that Portal gameplay that's good, but I feel like Valve fans would be lying if they said that Portal 1 was just short and rough around the edges. I also don't like GLaDOS's voice in it, like at all.
I agree with the foundational part. I think you play Portal 1. There's no there. First of all, there's no reason to play it now. Like, just play Portal 2, right?
Yeah.
Um, but unless you really want like the complete like Portal experience. But Portal 1 in a lot of ways like was pretty like almost kind of ahead of its time. It came out in 2007. Um,
I was 3.
which is kind of crazy. You're a child actually. Um, yeah, I was how old was I in 2007? I was 10. Um, so yeah, it came out in 2007, and like the technology was kind of impressive. Like, you think about when you look through the portals and you can see the level repeating itself over and over again.
It's still
Like,
so
that's
bizarre.
kind of, it is bizarre, but it's also like technologically impressive
Yeah, I don't know how they
to an
do that.
extent. On 2007 hardware,
Yeah. Valve's
and
always been known for that, pushing the line and using technology as an excuse for a game.
yeah, I mean the Source engine is I mean there's a reason people still use it to this day, you know.
Skibbity
It's
toilet, bruh. Sorry.
yeah, no, like the Source engine is just I mean it was kind of ahead of its time as well, like the physics, the momentum, like being able to fly through a portal and have it keep your speed. That's like not something that a lot of games did. Like, we take it for granted now, but like it's not something that a lot of games did back then, you
Absolutely.
know.
And
Um
aside from the gameplay, I think the story in Portal 1 is admittedly pretty lackluster. They set the foundation of Aperture, they hint you in on clues, and obviously you get the Ratman dens. But for people who are watching this and somehow don't know, Portal, the story is you wake up in this glass cube. You're a character that you find out is named Shell, and this AI GLaDOS is running you through these test chambers. And as the story progresses, you find hidden chambers of another person, you presume, leaving behind stuff saying the cake is a lie, all these like schizo writings and drawings, companion cube photos. You make it all the way to GLaDOS, and you kill her. You're outside the facility. Get dragged, Ben. That's about it.
Yeah. And then don't forget the song where she basically tells you to go screw yourself.
It's a
Um,
beautiful song. It's beautiful.
yeah, no, the story is like kind of whatever in my opinion. You don't play Portal 1 for the story. You play it for the puzzles and for the kind of like impressive technology, I guess, at the time.
Yeah.
Although I will say, I do kind of disagree with you about GLaDOS. I think that GLaDOS is like she's fine. Like she's not Portal 2 GLaDOS, but you can feel her like the seeds of her personality being like planted
Yeah. It
in.
almost feels like you said this one playing that she feels almost more robotic. I think in 2 they almost humanized her along with like
Mhm.
figuring out who she really is, which we'll get into kind of ties into that, but
Yeah, well also in Portal 2 you and her have history,
yeah,
right?
it's
In
no
this game she
longer
doesn't know.
just
In Portal 1 she doesn't know who you
you're
are.
just a test subject.
Yeah, she doesn't know like, until the end of the game where you try and kill her. She doesn't care who you are. You're just
Yeah.
like another like number.
But
Um
yeah, no, Portal
yeah.
1, cool package. It was short, part of the orange box. Story pretty straightforward, but it was hugely successful. People loved Portal. People were excited about
Mhm.
it. People were buying companion cube plushes and stuff. It had a big splash because it was an impressive game. It was cool. So they announced that Portal 2 is going to be in development, and I'm sure they wanted Portal to be successful, but they weren't sure. So there's some plot points at the end that don't really lead to anything besides you getting dragged back into the facility. So they release a comic before the second game comes out called Lab Rat. You've probably seen, if you're a Portal fan, you've probably seen art of it online, or at least seen a video where someone explained it, or even maybe have read it. But it's pretty cool.
The art the art from that comic gets used in almost every video about Portal.
Yeah.
So yeah, you probably definitely seen stuff from it.
But you just read it.
Uh,
What are your thoughts on the comic?
um it's interesting. I like that it gives you a little bit of glimpse into what Aperture Science was like before it fell apart, and you get to see a little bit more of the outside world in this comic too. Um, we're gonna get into this in the Portal 2, and when we start talking about Portal 2, because the story is more in depth. But in Portal 1, it is suggested that there's some kind of apocalyptic event that's happened
Yeah,
on
that's why
the
there's no
on
one
the outside
around.
world, and you kind of get to see like what the ground kind of looks like in the modern day, which is interesting. It's a fine connection to Portal 1 and Portal 2. I don't think it's at all necessary. Um,
Yeah,
like,
I agree with
I
that.
don't feel like I need to go back and play Portal 2 and be like, "Oh, I get it now." Like I just don't think it's
Yeah,
that deep.
but I think
But
it.
it's neat.
Yeah, it's similar to the other comics Valve have released, where they're not necessary, but they're still cool if you're fans. Like the Left 4 Dead
Hmm.
comics, for example, they obviously explain more and offer more lore
Yeah,
than
the
this
Left 4
Portal
Dead
one
comics
did.
are much more relevant.
But yeah, I think the comic is what it is. I do love it. I think it's cool. I love good art, and it's full of good art. There's some good quotables in there, but it's ultimately pretty short, and it's not necessary, like Mike said.
You
But
can
yeah,
skip it, but it's also a short read. I mean, it's 27 pages, but it's a comic. So even if you're mostly illiterate like me, you can uh
you can just
you
look at
can
the pretty
still,
colors and make it
yeah,
out.
you can still read it, and it'll probably only take you like 6 hours, you know.
I will
Um,
say one thing I do love about the comic is the Schrodinger's cat reference, because Portal likes to reference that a decent amount. But Shell, when Ratman put her into cryostasis, which is why she's like alive in the second game. I guess we can start
mhm.
talking about the second game and connect this now. At the beginning of the second game, you wake up in like a stasis, and it's been God knows how long, and Ratman put you in there, made you a Schrodinger's cat. You're not alive or dead in the box until someone pulls you out. And somebody does, Mike. Who pulls Shell out of this cryostasis?
Wheatley, of course. One
Dude,
of
my
the best,
guy.
probably one of the most iconic video game characters of all time. Like everybody knows this little blue ball guy. Yeah, I mean
He's the guy.
he's just a great personality,
And the
you
guy who
know.
voices him does a really good job. I think Portal 2 was a lot funnier and carried a lot more humor. It still exists in Portal 1, but it's not as intense. I think Wheatley being an AI and like a robot is super smart. If there was a companion in this game, like if they had Ratman or anyone else, it would not have been as memorable. I like that in this game you still are the only human for miles just in this massive maze. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Portal 2 starts out, you wake up, Wheatley greets you, and he puts you on this like insane intro sequence. What are your thoughts on the intro to Portal 2, Mike? If you want to share.
The intro sequence is interesting because it's this game that is like Wheatley's part of it, but the intro as a whole is very much like a foil to Portal 1, right? So
Yeah.
Portal 1, you wake up and you're in a testing chamber and you just do some tests. GLaDOS is talking to you, but like you don't really know who she is. She's just like a computer voice over the radio telling you what to do. And this game, you wake up, Wheatley barges in, he's like in a panic, right? Um, he does not at all sound like GLaDOS, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
Um, and like everything starts falling apart. Your cryo chamber starts swinging around, banging into stuff. Wheatley's trying to get you somewhere. He's like,
We gotta
you
go. We
know,
gotta go. Don't tell
he's like, we gotta
anybody
go.
about this.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, don't even think about it. Like, just start running. Get the portal gun. We gotta leave now. And it's very like it really is like an opposite start to Portal 1.
And like, I
It
think,
sets the tone.
yeah, with setting the tone, I feel like in Aperture, what Portal 2 does for the setting and world building is enforces this idea of you are in an actual maze. The comic talks about how it's like this big, living, interconnected organism with pieces and add ons everywhere. In the intro, you're in this small box that seems like a full room, but as Wheatley starts moving this box, the walls begin to crumble, and you realize that you're like this one rectangle room out of like a million, and you're being dragged through this massive facility, knocking things over, breaking through walls. It establishes that tone of you are small, like you're an ant in this living thing. And the living thing is GLaDOS, because GLaDOS runs it all. It's like one massive organism. It's kind of cool.
It is kind of crazy. It's kind of implied that like GLaDOS is the entire facility.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously at this point, right, she's still dead. So,
Yeah.
you know, Wheatley is, I'm guessing, pulling some emergency buttons to move stuff around and everything's breaking because it's not being controlled by the central computer. Um,
Yeah.
and you get to the old test chambers, right? And they're all like dilapidated and falling apart.
Some beautiful
Um,
greenery, which always makes I love seeing human stuff with like nature like taking it back over. It just feels good to
yeah,
look at.
yeah, the decayed like there's a movie that does this. Or not a movie. There's a documentary called like it's called like Earth Without Humans or some or it's not called it's called something more creative than that.
Yeah.
But I remember watching it a while ago and it was basically like what Earth would look like in like 100 years if all the humans just suddenly vanished. Like not died, but like just
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, and you get like the foliage growing into the buildings and animals start to retake population centers. Um, yeah, it was really fascinating. Also, the
Yeah.
weather, not to go too much on a tangent, but the effect that humans have on the weather is actually kind of crazy.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. In some places, we literally control it,
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
kind of
it's kind
nuts.
of, yeah. But anyway, I agree. The aesthetic is really nice, and again, it kind of is like you don't remember seeing a lot of this. Like, in Portal 1, everything was like fine.
Yep.
You know.
Makes you
So
wonder like how far in the future we've gone. I'm sure you could probably do the math if you're like a botanist to know how fast plants grow or can spread, but it's really like it's impossible to know, which I think is cool.
yeah,
But yeah, you go back into the old test chambers and you stumble upon the dead body of GLaDOS. Wheatley is like freaking out. He's like, "Bro, we should not be here." Um, he leads you to like an escape room, and you find out that this escape room is actually the power system and the backup for GLaDOS. And Wheatley had you do a completely stupid, idiotic thing and bring her back to life.
yeah. So again, Wheatley is like the foil to GLaDOS, which I think is really important. GLaDOS is like cold and calculated, and like everything she does is like thought about, you know, an hour in advance.
Yeah.
Wheatley is an idiot. He was like programmed to be an idiot.
And make
Um,
terrible decisions.
yeah, and so you have the two of them just constantly going back and forth with each other a lot throughout the game. And it really, um, I think it helps bring out like a more human side of GLaDOS because she has to like acknowledge him.
Yeah.
And obviously like you're the player doesn't talk, right? So it's good that she has someone to like talk to. I think it helps really like flesh out her character.
I think Valve does that well with Half-Life and Portal both. For a character that doesn't talk, there really like is a lot of dialogue and it's not wasted in their games. And I feel like
Right.
by and large they have pretty good writing. Gaming can sometimes have pretty cringe or under par writing because gamers are not writers, they're not screenplay makers. But when you have the budget like Valve to hire people that know what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing, I really love a game with good writing because it changes the immersion a lot. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
GLaDOS wakes up and she's not happy like at all. You
No.
find out after she crushes Wheatley and tosses him to the side that after you killed her, she has a black box quick save feature and she relived her death for God knows how long, because you don't know how long it's
Yeah.
been. So
Yeah.
her anger and resentment towards you has been building up for basically eternity, for all you know.
Right. And yeah, she's very excited to do some more testing.
She
That's
can't
definitely
wait to
not
get back
designed to
into
kill
it.
you.
I think
Um,
this whole part with
yeah,
GLaDOS being mad at you is done so well, and there's so much underlying like tension in her voice. Like even her saying that she's gonna test you till you die, and then she'll try to figure out how to bring humans back to life. Basically saying she's gonna trap you forever. It's horrible.
yeah, yeah. She is not. She's your biggest hater, and
Yeah.
that is no understatement. I mean, she hates humanity, but she hates you.
You're a thorn in her side.
Yeah, no, it is a really good scene. And again, it helps kind of set the tone because we're still kind of in like the introductory sequence,
Yeah.
and it does really help set the tone for what the rest of the game is going to be like, or what you think the rest of the game is going to
Yeah.
be like, I should say.
A super cool and well done opening. I think that opening alone, my first time playing it, made me realize that this game was gonna be something different. I think I realized in that moment that this game was 100% different. They took everything about Portal 1 and kicked it up, and I personally had never seen the solo campaign because when Portal 2 came out, I remember people doing the co-op a bunch. I saw a ton of YouTubers
Oh
posting
yeah.
co-op, but yeah,
We can talk about the co-op campaign, absolutely.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I just think I agree. I think Valve feels way more confident in Portal 2. You
so
know,
much more confident.
they really feel like they knew exactly where they wanted this to go, and they had Portal 1 as the foundation, and now they're like, perfect. Let's take this. Let's make the real game. You
Yeah,
know, Portal 1 almost feels like a proof of concept next to Portal 2.
absolutely. And we've gone this entire intro to Portal 2 with no portals, though. Surprisingly, this entire intro, there's no portals. But after you're woken up by GLaDOS, she leads you to a portal gun. and you get the
Yeah.
first. It's a one-sided portal gun. You can only shoot one portal, and you go through this whole segment, obviously, where GLaDOS is shitting on you, expressing her hatred, saying all these things while you portal around.
We didn't really talk about the puzzle quality in Portal 1.
That's a good point. They were all right.
But they're okay.
Just kind of slow, because everything that moves is on a timer, which can be kind of annoying. It feels really slow. That's what I've noticed about
Yeah,
Portal
it
1.
does. Portal 1 does feel very clunky, and the puzzles feel very not basic. Like, they are well thought out and well made, but they don't do anything that requires like they don't ask too much of you, I would say.
Yeah.
This game is not the case. This game throws new elements and new mechanics at you every 20 minutes.
Yeah, in the first game you had buttons, lasers, like fizzer walls, the energy balls, but here you have like funnels that move you. You have
light bridges.
Oh my god, the light bridges.
The turrets are back. You got the laser
time.
beams that go through the little optical lens cubes.
Yep.
Or whatever they're called, the laser cubes. You got the spheres, the edgeless safety cubes.
The edgeless, yes.
The jump pads. Those are not in Portal 1 at all, which I actually forgot about until I replayed the game.
And the companion cube is back here. In the first game, I forgot. Yeah, you have to incinerate a companion cube. This big cube with a heart on it. GLaDOS makes you incinerate it. And I think what's funny here is the first time when you interact with one, you have to put it in front of a laser to complete the puzzle. But when you do that, it just gets eviscerated, and she has you murder like 3 or 4 more. Pretty funny.
Yeah. You can sneak it out, though. There is an achievement for sneaking it out.
I also like how many more achievements there are into a lot more secrets and cool stuff to do. They added
a lot more stuff to find,
which I always appreciate. But yeah, as you go through these chambers, that dilapidated nature remains and it's accentuated. Some puzzles there's just grass and light coming through. Others you can see holes in the floor that go to like a bottomless abyss at the factory. They have GLaDOS like moving and shifting panels and putting things into place. She kind of haphazardly throwing stuff together. She mentions having to go clear like 5 acres of broken glass from a wing that got destroyed.
Yeah, she says she's I think at one point she asked you not to solve the chambers too quickly so she has time to prepare them and put them back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game, I know you said this earlier, this game does really make you feel like you're somewhere you're just not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, it really has that like, oh, like I am like not allowed to be here kind of feel.
And after GLaDOS kills Wheatley, you see him again. He didn't actually die. He shows up while you're in the process of
he, like,
testing.
Busts through the fucking wall.
Yeah, he's like, yo, I'm here.
He's like, get out now, come on, follow me. And like you bust out of the chamber. He takes you to GLaDOS's control room. Helps you shut down her turrets.
Oh, the shutting down the turrets was cool. Because you have like the unfinished ones that have different voices from normal. They have really funny voice lines.
They're called, I think they have a name. They're called like they're defective. They're defective turrets. Yeah.
And they're really funny.
They are really funny.
There's actually a secret where if you take a turret from some point in the game, I can't remember where, but it'll give you like a whole speech about like ancient gods and pretty cool. The turrets are kind of creepy but sweet at the same time. There's a lot of secrets involved with them. And at the end of each game, they sing for you, which is interesting. But anyway, yeah, Wheatley helps you escape. You do all that shit.
Yeah, you shut off the neurotoxin, disable the turrets, do some other, like, behind the scenes back alley stuff with Wheatley while he's making stupid jokes the whole time.
You and Wheatley really run amok on the facility. Like, yeah, I forget.
Yeah, you really do. Like,
that segment's pretty long of you and him just destroying shit.
It's pretty long, and I do appreciate that you get to see a lot of the behind-the-scenes operations of the facility, like the turret manufacturing, the conveyor belts.
Big, yeah. It's no longer just the enrichment center.
It makes it feel like a real facility, like a real like a whole operation is going on here.
In the latter half, it does that even better. I guess this is the big
Yeah.
shift point in the plot here that we've gotten to, where you swap out GLaDOS for Wheatley. You put Wheatley in charge of the facility, and he's an idiot, and you just granted him an insane amount of power he's never had before. It's almost like, when you give a prince the keys to a kingdom at like 18, it's going to send him mentally insane, especially if they're an idiot, and that's exactly what happens.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's because he's just an idiot, or do you think it's something about being in control of the facility that causes him to go like
I
crazy
think it's
and
for
like
sure
psychotic?
both. I feel like running the facility, you're then hooked into things, external factors, all these control systems that were put into place to try to keep GLaDOS in line. And those things were not built for Wheatley, they were built for GLaDOS. And then on top of him being an idiot and inherently making bad decisions, it was just a recipe for disaster. No matter what, it was going to go south, which you don't even think of as the player, because Wheatley's been nothing but nice to you. He's dumb, but you don't expect anything bad to come of it.
No, he seems to have your best interests at heart. Like he seems to, like so when he says like put me in control, you're just like you have no reason to distrust him. He's never been dishonest with you.
Yep.
He's never lied to you intentionally,
Which is pretty
Um,
funny, because once he gets into power, he accuses you of those things. He calls you like a liar, that you never had his interest at heart, and all these terrible things.
him and GLaDOS have another back and forth, which is pretty funny.
He makes her a
Um,
potato.
he does put her into a potato, and she calls him an idiot. And as he's raising you up, he decides, wait a minute, we actually have to do. There are some more tests that we should probably do first. And so he starts pulling you back down, and then. I think GLaDOS calls him an idiot, and he says, well, can an idiot do this? And he slams the elevator, and it just falls for, like, probably miles, honestly.
Yeah, with you and GLaDOS on the way down with it.
And, you have time to contemplate your life decisions up to this point. You fall into more of the facility, but it doesn't look the same, does it, Seth?
No, this is where the second big section of the game, I believe, happens. It's another major.
It's like
It's
the
the
second
major
half.
turning point. Yeah, you end up in this like run down, shut down section of Aperture, full of like condemned test zones and a bunch of illegal stuff that I think Aperture kind of wanted to bury. Hence, you having to fall down to it. Like it's in the depths. It's underneath. And these locations aren't the only thing that you begin to unearth. This is where you start to truly see who GLaDOS is and the mind behind it. You meet a major character, which I will let you talk about because I know you love this guy. And who's this new
Are you
character
talking
that we meet?
about, Hey, Gabe Johnson here. The
Yeah.
lab boys just told me that those space rocks we found might have cancer in them.
So,
So good luck with that. Yeah. So Cave Johnson is I'm assuming I believe he's the CEO of Aperture and
yeah,
the founder of the company. Now, what's interesting is Wheatley, and I guess to an extent GLaDOS when she's in control has no control over this portion of the facility. Like Wheatley is not controlling anything. GLaDOS was obviously not controlling anything. You can tell because things are just kind of happening. Um, and you hear the voice of Cave Johnson, and he's a really interesting character. He is very clearly also an idiot, but he's an idiot with a lot of money.
yeah,
And I think, in my opinion, I think he believed that he was doing what was necessary for the future of humanity.
absolutely.
Um,
He was
and
like an adventurous man at his heart. Like
mhm.
at his core, he was adventurous, he was curious, and incredibly motivated and extroverted, but he was not very smart.
And as you go through these really old, areas and test chambers, first of all, by the way, gameplay-wise, the game is still throwing new mechanics at you, um,
Constantly, yeah, you
with
never get
the
away
with the
from it.
gels.
The
How do you feel about the gels?
gels. I think it's a weird thing to put. I think in the facility they don't make a ton of sense. They obviously write lore around to make them make sense. They do feel like they were
Hmm.
kind of thrown in, and like I said, lore was written to make it make sense. But I think mechanically they're cool, and it was the logical thing to add. I don't know how many more things they could have added that weren't that. if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
absolutely. And I think again it just shows like how kind of ahead of their time Valve were with the way that you can apply the gel. You can put it on almost any surface and it works. Like you put the blue gel is the one that makes you bounce, I think, right?
Yeah, I love that one.
And so you put it on the floor and obviously you can bounce off the floor. You can put it on walls and you can like almost wall jump with it. Like it's very interesting that they thought of those kinds of
And
things
it
because I
makes
feel like a
you
lot of other developers wouldn't have thought about those kinds of things at the time.
100%. And it makes you look at the levels differently because the only time you're looking at the walls is to see where you can throw a portal, but this kind of makes you think in the room in a different way. Like each puzzle room you're in, you're looking at the walls and where you could bounce and how. It makes you
Hmm.
look at the levels completely differently, which was creative.
I also feel like this is probably a good time to talk about the visuals or the graphics because you do fall into this area and you get like a very beautiful, like almost beautiful in like a dark kind of way
Yeah, these
view
deep
of like this.
salt mines.
Yeah, do you remember the big door that opens? Like
Yep, the
the
massive
huge like
vault doors.
almost like a Fallout vault door, but like way bigger.
Spectacle is
Um,
something that is here, which I did not expect out of a Portal game, to be honest with you. I feel like there's almost
yeah.
more spectacle in Portal 2 than Half Life, and they came out very close to each other.
But how do you feel? Like, I'll let you go first. How do you feel about the art style and like graphical style?
I think with the Source Engine, Portal 2, they really pushed it as far as they could with the time. I don't think you could have made Source look any prettier than they did with Portal 2. Obviously, nowadays with Source 2, they can do insane stuff, but this was like the prettiest Source game I think I have ever seen. Genuinely, the art direction and the scientific nature of everything is done really well. There's a lot of charm to it. Yeah, I think it looks good straight up. Like I said, I like the overgrown nature aesthetics. I love rundown places, and yeah,
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I think the Source Engine has a certain charm to it, almost. You know what I mean?
100%.
Um, like you go back, even you go back and you play some of the older Source games like Half-Life One or Portal One, or even like the original Left 4 Dead came out like a year before Portal One, I think.
I
Um,
think what it is about the Source Engine, people point out the uncanny aspect of it, which definitely exists, but I think there's almost like a campy nature to it, like a very retro feeling. Like it looks so much like a video game, but like in the best way possible, if that makes sense.
yeah, I completely agree. I think it really I don't know. It just I don't even know how to explain it. It just has like a charm. Like the way that like the physics work in the engine, the way that like everything is like you said, you put it into really perfect terms actually. Like it really looks like a video game. They're not going for an ultra realistic
Yeah,
um kind of feel. Um
I hate games that try to
and
be too realistic and fall short.
and it just makes these games it just makes them age so much better.
100%.
Like Portal 1, there are definitely elements that have not aged well, but the graphics are not one of them. Like the game still looks pretty good. It doesn't look dated, it doesn't look like a product of its time. um
That's a game that would come out today.
yeah, it's like it's very timeless you know and I think I agree with everything you said about Portal 2 specifically. I was kind of ranting more about
That's
the Source
okay.
engine in general, but Um, yeah, Portal 2, I mean, you have to think came out, no, Portal 2 came out 2011, so 2 years before the Stanley Parable, which I think is like one of the most modern games that was made with the original Source engine.
Yeah, just about
Um,
Titanfall, maybe sooner. I don't know when Titanfall 2 came out, but that's neither here nor there.
Titanfall made with Source? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. Wow, okay. There's my fun fact of the day.
Yeah, you learned something new.
Um, yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, Stanley, you look at the Stanley Parable and you can see I think that's probably about as well, I guess maybe Titanfall is more so, but that's like kind of as far as you can push the Source engine.
Yeah.
And Portal 2 was almost there, and it came out 2 years earlier.
I hope we start seeing
Like
more
the
Source
lighting is
2
really well
games.
done.
It is done really well. So much better in Portal too. The lighting is really, really, really good.
Yeah, like the way like you have the cracks in the ceilings and the sunlight beams down through them. But it's not like an obnoxious god ray. It's just like it looks like real sunlight,
Yeah.
you know. And like the glow of the computers, the glow of the portals, like the
Yeah.
light fixtures on the
The
walls.
lighting is so important in games.
Yeah, and this game does it really well.
I think with Source 2, I'm really excited to see where games go. With Source 2, it's so Valve and it's so Source Engine, but it's so modern. I think Source 2 doesn't get enough credit because there's not enough games with it. You have Half-Life Alyx, and that's pretty much it. But the Source 2 engine, if it
PS2.
starts getting like used, oh yeah, CS2 also. How did I forget about that? It looks great and it maintains that. There's an alternate universe where we get a Portal 3 with Source 2. I'm just kind of daydreaming here. I don't really have a point to make. I just really like the engine.
Yeah.
And after playing Alyx, some games with that engine, bro, Valve is making a new game. I'm not excited about it. But anyway, yeah, Cave
Well, maybe we'll
Johnson,
talk
bro.
about it in an episode.
Yeah,
Um,
Cave Johnson is a really cool character. I think that it makes perfect sense that Cave Johnson would be the owner of Aperture, which is with as much personality and creativity Aperture has in it, the creator would also need that. And I think with the absence of Wheatley, because he's not around you, you kind of are separated from him. You and GLaDOS are going on this journey, and upon learning about Cave Johnson, you begin to learn that GLaDOS has correlation with him. In the study of AI, someone that Cave Johnson knew, their mind was put into GLaDOS a little bit. You know, maybe.
Caroline.
Yeah, Caroline.
Her
His
name.
assistant, left hand, right hand, whatever, is GLaDOS in a way. He wanted to upload his mind into the artificial intelligence world so he could live forever, run this facility forever, but he got sick and died before that could become a thing. So his poor assistant was left to pick up the reins of that.
Ironically, he died from his own science.
Yeah, his
It's
ambition
implied
killed
that
him.
the asbestos cancer moon rocks or whatever that he talks about are actually what ended up killing him.
It makes sense.
So
His science would be the thing that killed him. He cut a lot of
yeah, I
corners.
mean, so you go through this dilapidated facility, and the puzzles are really cool because a lot of these rooms are like huge.
Yeah.
Um, because the walls are falling apart, the chambers are not separated properly.
You also get a cool new
And
gel. You get the white gel that lets you portal
oh yeah, the
wherever
white
you
gel and the
want.
orange gel.
Literally blowing the roof off of game design. You can put a portal wherever you want in this room. Have fun. It was so cool.
Oh yeah, that room. I remember the first time I played that room, it took me 45 minutes to figure out what to do to get through that room.
They give you so much free will because puzzles are usually like do this and this, puzzle done. But here you kind of had to think
Yeah.
outside the box. Which, like we said,
Yeah.
each new thing they add makes you look at the puzzles completely differently. You never feel stale or like you're repeating things too much. They keep the puzzles fresh, which is really important in a puzzle game to keep things
Yeah.
fresh.
100% agreed. I forgot. Oh yeah, so you're going through this. So the other thing that's happening while you're going through this facility, besides getting all these cool new gels, and it combines with the with other mechanics that we've already seen. So you have to kind of. It is like a good test of everything you've learned. You're also getting the story with GLaDOS and Cave Johnson, which I know you talked about.
It just throughout it.
Do you think it makes GLaDOS like a likable character?
I think it makes her more likable. She is a likable character in like an evil way, like the way that you can love to hate a villain, like Jack from
Right.
Borderlands, for instance.
Right.
It humanizing her and tying her into Aperture better and being able to see the backstory, I think definitely makes her a more full character. Because as it stands,
Yeah.
GLaDOS is just kind of like this ominous figure that hates you, but here it does quite literally humanize her and makes you almost empathize with her because she's a slave in a lot of ways, almost like you.
Yeah, she's in a lot of ways, she's almost like another one of Cave Johnson's test subjects.
Yeah.
You know?
doomed to run the facility until it falls apart.
So eventually you get back up, right? You finally get your way out of this old rundown facility. You unfortunately have to say goodbye to Cave Johnson. You get back up to the modern testing facility that Wheatley is running. Things are going pretty good up here, right?
Yeah, when you come back to Wheatley after GLaDOS, you stick GLaDOS on your portal gun, and you two kind of work together to figure out how to fix this fuck up. You come back to Wheatley, and he's making new cubes with like turrets attached to them, trying to get them to do puzzles. There's like an emergency explosion, nuclear reactor meltdown imminent. It's in terrible shape, which kind of amps up the urgency here, but gives you a lot of funny moments and a ton of comedy. Because you come across Wheatley, he finds you in GLaDOS, you try using a paradox to kill him, it fails. So you have this whole section where Wheatley is angry at you, tormenting you, and because he's an idiot and makes all the wrong decisions, is inadvertently slowly leading you closer and closer to where he is. So you and GLaDOS are just along for the ride, getting closer and closer to his chamber, and eventually you do. You get to his chamber with GLaDOS.
I do want to say before we get to that point,
yeah.
The reason the paradox doesn't work is he's actually too stupid to understand that it's a paradox.
He just hears the question and he's just like, yeah, makes sense.
He's just like, yeah, of course, makes sense to me. And she's like, it's a paradox. There is no right answer.
And he's
which
like,
is
wrong.
Really funny.
He's like, wrong, actually. I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
He's so funny, dude.
And, yeah, shout out Stephen Merchant. I looked it up as the name of the voice actor. He does a phenomenal job.
So.
And I also like the way he's creating test chambers on the fly.
Oh yeah, just haphazardly throwing them together.
Like there's one part where he's like, you walk in and the test chamber is actually like falling apart because the facility's falling apart because he doesn't know how to run it. And he's like, oh, hold on, let me fix this. And he pulls another test chamber over and just smashes them together.
Yes.
Like, it almost kills you. And he's like, this is probably solvable, I think. You can do this.
Yeah, figure it out. In that scene, actually, you can see one of the co-op robots, Peabody, which is kind of cool.
But yeah, so yeah, you make your way through Wheatley's hell. You get to his chamber, which is obviously also GLaDOS's chamber. Yeah, you get a boss fight. We didn't really talk about the boss fight in Portal 1 because it's pretty simple.
Yeah, you just set up portals and have like these rocket turrets hit GLaDOS. You throw like personality cores into a fire. Wheatley is a personality core, which is cool. The personality cores are just different AIs that you can attach to other AIs and kind of like shift or change them a little bit. They're pretty interesting. In the boss battle in Portal 2 here, they make a return. The whole fight is you trying to get GLaDOS back in control and just take Wheatley out. You and GLaDOS come to an agreement like, you know, we're going to die if we don't do this, so you might as well. You know, there's really not an option. So you work together, defeat all Wheatley's dumb ideas to try to stop you, and generally it's not too difficult, but I think that's a good thing. If the final level or boss fight was the hardest puzzle in the game, it would be kind of lame. You know what I mean? I like that the end of the
game's not about
epic.
Yeah, the game's not about the boss fight, right?
Yeah.
And I do like that you're attaching even stupider personality cores onto him.
Space.
Yeah, there you got the space guy. You got the army sergeant guy.
It's like a cowboy lover kind of trope one.
The cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty funny
stuff. Yeah, it's pretty funny. The humor in this game, we haven't really talked about it, but it's really good and it's aged really well.
Some of the best humor in a game I've ever seen. I like the one quote. It's not like super funny, but it talks about how you're going to be using the laws of physics for this next test, and the AI voice is like, if the laws of physics no longer apply in the future, God help you. I mean, it's true.
Yeah. My favorite quote is when GLaDOS is insulting you, and she calls you stupid, and she says, well, it says right here on the test result that you're stupid and ugly. And we weren't even testing for that. I mean, that's like crazy that even came back.
It's so good and so sharp. Like
Yeah.
there's intelligent
Yeah, it is.
humor, dumb humor. It's good. Like I said, good
Yeah.
writing. Just a good writing team.
So as you're battling Wheatley, the facility is actively falling apart. Like it's melted. Like that nuclear meltdown warning that Wheatley kept saying is not a big deal, has expired. There is now a nuclear meltdown in process. You know, he kind of like puts you in like an awkward position where like he's almost like actually about to kill you, and then how do you get out of that situation, Seth?
You look up at the beautiful moonlight shining to you, and you're like, wait, the things that you can put portals on are made of moon dust. What if, and you shoot a portal at the moon, and it begins sucking Wheatley and everything in the facility really into the vacuum of fucking space. You get sucked out with him. You're holding on to Wheatley's head after you've put GLaDOS like back into a position of power, almost like she's hooked up and ready to go. Wheatley gets sent into
And
space, and GLaDOS pulls you back in.
a lot of people were probably expecting GLaDOS to. I know I was expecting GLaDOS to just betray you. But she actually just sets you free.
And she saves
Um,
you, literally saves your life.
she actually does it. It's purely out of self-interest, by the way. She actually sets you free because she realizes if she keeps you around, you will probably end up destroying her and the facility.
Yeah, you're a
Um,
liability.
so like it's mathematically like advantageous to just get rid of you.
Yeah. It almost seems like that ending was cut and dry, but they found a realistic and cool way to make it work, and almost makes that whole relationship you built with GLaDOS worth something. Like it feels like all that time you guys spent bonding was genuine.
It does. Yeah, it feels like she's acting like an asshole to you, but like deep down she does like there's part of like Caroline in her that does actually care about you.
And then she deletes her before sending you out.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, then
And
you
that
get sent up to the top, and you see a beautiful field of wheat, and she throws a companion cube up at you.
yeah, and that's the end of the game.
That's the end of
Um,
the solo game. A
the end of the
genuinely
solo campaign.
phenomenal, well written, awesome, good spectacle, just package of a game. It's the most highest rated game on Steam is Portal 2 because it really is just a story in a game that anyone can get into and like. I feel like it's hard to not like it.
It is. It's really hard. Even if you don't like puzzle games, the story keeps you entertained. If you don't like this, if you're not really a big story fan, the puzzles are well designed and complex enough
To like tickle your brain
to
a little.
to keep you going. You know, so I mean,
Yeah, I feel like at
there's
the
just
very
like
least, people just end up feeling meh about the game. I don't think there's anyone that plays Portal 2 and was like, this game sucked or can't find anything redeemable about it. It technically runs well as
yeah.
well. Like, it's optimized pretty well. It feels good to play.
hmm
No lag, no
Again, it doesn't
crashes.
look dated.
Yeah. And that's how a classic is
Um,
born.
that's how a classic is born. Yeah, I really love this game. Like I said, when I played Portal 1 the first time, I played it once, never looked back. I played Portal 2 the first time, and then I replayed it again like three
Oh
months
my god,
later,
yeah.
and then I replayed it
Played it
again a
like
year
4 or
after.
5 times since I first played it.
hmm
It's super
Like there's just
replayable.
something about it. There's something magical about it.
It feels good. Like, I love
Um,
finding any excuse to replay Portal.
yeah, I do too.
And the
Do you want to
fan
talk
base is
about the
huge.
co-op campaign? I know we've been going kind of a long time,
Yeah,
but
we're pushing an hour. We can wrap up the co-op campaign here
okay.
because there's not a lot of depth to it. It's after the
I didn't
solo
know.
campaign. GLaDOS builds Peabody and Atlas, two AI robots that you and a friend play as, and their goal is to like search for and find this like reserve of humans hidden in another part of the facility so she can have test subjects, and also to create AI test subjects for when all the humans die out inevitably.
hmm
And you just do a bunch of stuff for her. She doesn't tell you what it is. At the end of each chapter, you get a disc on information. You keep going and going until you find all the humans. And it's kind of funny because the whole co op campaign is like charming, funny, sweet. There's not a lot of negative or evil sides of it like the first game, but it's a really
hmm
dark story. Like GLaDOS is literally using these two AI robots to doom an entire warehouse full of people to their deaths and like testing, but with like this really
Yeah.
positive vibe to it. It's interesting. And
Yeah,
you
it is interesting. It also takes place after the single player campaign,
yeah.
just for
And you
context.
get 4 portals, which you can do a lot of shit with.
Yeah, I will say it's impressive how they were able to design. There's 8 testing courses, that all have about 7 chambers each, 7 to 8 chambers each. So it is impressive that they managed to design almost 64 portal-based tests using all the mechanics from the single-player game.
And making it feel
I mean,
fresh with
you
the
have
4 portals.
yeah, I mean, you have the jump pads, the bridges, the funnels, the gels. It's all here. And the fact that they were able to design all these in a way where it's only solvable by 2 people is kind of crazy.
Right? That's good level design.
Yeah, I mean, like I hope that whoever the level designers were for Portal 2 are living good. That's all I'm gonna say.
Facts.
Like somebody buy that guy a beer.
Yeah. The co-op campaign is admittedly not as good as the solo one, but that's not what they were trying to do. They just wanted a co-op Portal experience, and if the lore was too heavy or too intense, it would have taken away from the first, like the solo campaign. I feel like if the second one was too, there's too much happening with it. Personally, I feel like it was a smart thing to do. Um,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah,
secret
it's not
like
like oh, sorry, go ahead.
there's a secret chapter area actually that gets you a secret ending too.
Is there really?
Yeah, it's like the whole art and whatever one, and at the end you get that cutscene with like the bird that they find, and it like starts flying
Oh,
around
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. The story is nothing to like write home about, obviously. But that's not why you play it, right? You play it because you're like me and you, where you're in love with this game, and you can drag your friend in to play it with you, and you can troll the shit out of them. Um,
I love killing people in co-op, bro.
yeah, you can just pull portals away. There's actually like GLaDOS actually references if you do it, like it's totally like they knew that people were gonna do this.
Yeah.
Um, and there's emotes you can do where you can like yank the other person's head off, and you can play rock paper scissors with them. Yeah, Peabody and Atlas. I also like their designs a lot. I think they're like, I don't know. I feel like they're the recipe for good like asymmetrical co-op design. You
Yeah, you
know,
get the short, round, tall, skinny.
Portal 2 co-op walked so It Takes Two can run. All right.
Dude, facts.
Um.
Shout out It Takes
Um.
Two.
Yeah, no, I mean the in all seriousness, like the co-op in this game is really like kind of like a foundation for a lot of asymmetrical co-op games that came after it, like It Takes Two or A Way Out, you know,
100%.
where you have 2 people doing different things to get towards a common goal.
Just the best way to do co-op. Because I love games like
Yeah,
Borderlands where it's co-op, but you don't really have to work together or mash brains to get things done. You guys just they up the enemy
right.
health and spawn rate, and you just shoot more bullets. That's about it.
Yeah. In this game, if you don't work together, like you're not
Yeah,
progressing.
there's literally no
So,
way. But
um,
any final
and they
thoughts?
didn't have to do it. They didn't have to do it.
Oh my god,
They could have
yeah,
just
dude. I was gonna mention that. Thank you for bringing that up. How many
yeah.
games do you know that have 2 campaigns in it?
Yeah, like one for like an entire. I mean, the co-op campaign is not short. Like I said, it's like something like 60
No,
something test chambers. It's like several hours of content. It's like I have in my notes here. It's like a game within a game almost.
literally. Why don't more
You
games
know?
do that?
Yeah, it's just well because the mentality around video games back then was just different.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have to do that. Like Portal 2 on its own, the single player campaign is enough to sell the game and be wildly successful, but they just decided like let's just make an entire co-op campaign. Yeah, I mean, really speaks to what kind of studio Valve was at the time and still is to an extent.
yeah.
Um
Now, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you haven't said that you want to?
I don't think so. I think I've said most of what I said. Play Portal 2 if you haven't.
For sure,
Um
play Portal 2.
it's literally on sale like every other weekend because it's a Valve game. It's on Steam. You know, even at full price, you can get it for like 15 bucks probably. It goes free forever all the time.
If you're watching this, like soon after this video came out, it's on sale right now for the summer sale for an actual $1, a single $1.
That's what I mean. Like, there's almost no reason to not play this game.
Yeah, you're gonna spend $1 on some dumb shit anyway, so get yourself a good time.
If you're a fan of puzzle games, this is like a must-play, 100%.
And if you're a fan of story, this is a no-brainer.
What about you? Do you have any closing thoughts?
I just love Portal 2 to death, and all I want is more people to play Portal 2. So if you haven't and you appreciated this video and want to do me a favor, play Portal 2.
I completely agree. So now we're going to give it a score. Do you want to do both Portal 1 and Portal 2?
Yeah, I'll give
like separately.
Yeah, let's do separate scores. I'll go first quick. Yeah. Portal 1, I'll give Portal 1 a 65. And I'll give Portal 2 100. I literally can't think of a single complaint to give Portal 2 in all honesty. To me, that's about as perfect as a game as you can get.
Interesting. Your scores are higher than mine. But that's I can't blame you. Actually, we're really close on Portal 1.
Oh, hit me with it.
So before I knew we were doing out of 100, I did it out of 10. So mine would be a 60 out of 100.
Nice.
That I gave Portal 1.
Yeah.
And Portal 2, I put 8 out of 10. If we're doing an out of 100, I'd probably do like 85. 85, between 85 and 90.
It's a great sport.
Yeah. You know, I will say I don't think it's a perfect game. You know, I think there's I think it does go on a little bit too long. If there's like one thing I could maybe complain about. I do think by the end of the game, and I know you probably disagree, but I think by the end of the game, you're kind of like surprised. It kind of feels a little bit surprising that it's still going. You know what I mean?
See that, yeah.
That's like honestly kind of a nitpick. It's not really a big deal.
Yeah, you still love the game.
That's like if I have to pick one thing to complain about, I'd say it's probably overstays its welcome a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd say like, you know, 8 or 9 out of 10 probably, or 80 to 90 out of 100.
Hey, our first 2 scores, dude. Give it up.
Yeah, we're on the board. We've made it this far.
That's the end of the first episode of Skill Issue, dude.
I'm gonna do the standard YouTube stuff for you. Leave a like on the video. You know, leave a comment. Bro, put in the comments, in all honesty, put in the comments what game you want us to talk about next.
Yeah. Throw some stuff down there. And
yeah. I mean, I've got ideas. I'm sure you've got ideas, but you know.
Yeah.
No wrong answers, unless the answer is Overwatch 2. That's the only wrong answer.
We're gonna have an Overwatch episode. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for watching or listening. If you're watching this to go to sleep to, hope you're dreaming well. Hope you're nice and snug and you wake up feeling refreshed, and then you have to rewind.
Oh, Mike,
watch the video again.
On 3, we're gonna do our signature catchphrase that both of us know that we've been planning for the outro of every video. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, and that's a skill issue.
Keep it classy. Oh.
Oh.